In the quiet folds of history, nestled within the lush embrace of the Ukrainian landscape, lies the town of Chernobyl, a place whose name resonates across the globe, echoing with poignant reminders of human ambition and frailty. Here, where the verdant flow of the Pripyat River mirrors the idiosyncratic contours of human endeavor, the serene beauty belies the profound historical significance that would unfurl upon this tranquil land. As we travel back to the early days of April 1986, one cannot help but reflect on the juxtaposition of nature's grace against the backdrop of an era marked by polarizing global tensions, known predominantly as the Cold War. This tenuous political landscape, rife with aspirations for dominance and control, would soon intersect with a tragic impulse stemming from technological hubris, leaving indelible marks not only on a community but on the broader world. The sun rises gently over the horizon, casting a tender golden light across Chernobyl's expansive fields. Seemingly untouched by time, this landscape stretches out, rich with life and possibility, yet imbued with an undercurrent of the anxieties that characterized the Soviet Union in its final years. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant, a marvel of modern engineering located just several kilometers to the north, epitomized these ambitions, serving as both a beacon of progress and a somber testament to human fallibility. It was here, in the shadow of this colossal structure, in a region bustling with the energy of industrial growth and technological promise, that the fate of many would pivot from the sublime to the catastrophic. As life flowed relentlessly forward in this community, the burgeoning powers of the Soviet state propelled the narrative of Chernobyl. The power plant, inaugurated only a decade earlier in 1970, had been hailed as a cornerstone of energy efficiency and a symbol of prowess in harnessing nuclear power for the greater good of society. Thus, both Chernobyl and its neighboring town of Pripyat, established to support the operations of the plant and its workers, became intertwined, serving as a microcosm of state initiative and communal solidarity. The aspirations for energy independence were not just technical missions but intimate dance steps within the grand performance of a superpower, showcasing the intertwining of scientific progress with the political machinations of a period defined by ideological conflict. Peering deeper into the landscape, one approaches the town of Pripyat, founded in 1970 and initially christened with an air of utopian promise. The architectural aesthetics of Soviet modernism adorned its streets, framed by apartment blocks that rose like eager sentinels watching over the life that flowed beneath them. As the gentle winds rustled the leaves of the endless surrounding greenery, children laughed and played in the sunshine, and families gathered in marketplaces, sharing stories amidst the tender aromas of local delicacies. It was a community thriving upon the burgeoning narrative of nuclear energy, a shimmering future painted with optimism in the backdrop of complex cultural and economic forces. Yet the shadows cast by history remind us that this narrative, like the very landscape it occupied, was not formed from the serene and predictable. The Cold War era brought a peculiar tension, as the technological arms race spurred nations to push the boundaries of science. The inner workings of the Chernobyl plant were emblematic of these pressures. The serene public facade often obscured the lurking hazards that belied the devastating possibility of human error amid bureaucratic ever-building walls. A state tasked not solely with advancing technology, but also with presenting an image of infallibility, often overlooked the inherent vulnerabilities that such strength harbored. With slow, sweeping visuals, the documentary reveals the juxtaposition between the lively daily life in Pripyat and the grim potentiality that was quietly brewing within the power plant. The people of the town, their hopes rooted firmly in the optimism of the age, continued to engage in their daily routines with a steadfast trust in the government's assurances on safety and progress. Affectionate relationships mingled with a faith in the transformative capabilities of science, encapsulating the spirit of the Soviet populace who had borne witness to the claims of monumental revolutions, both political and technological. As nature whispered through the trees lining the streets, the systemic ambitions of the Soviet government beautifully mingled with the rhythms of everyday life within Pripyat. In many ways, this symbiosis echoed the broader human experience, dreams entangled with the firmament of reality, each delicate thread stitched together through collective experiences and societal aspirations. Children chased each other across the rolling lawns, their laughter ringing through the air like music. Together, families gathered in the evenings, sharing a simple meal or recounting tales from the workday, deepening the bond that held a community closely knit. It is important to ponder on the notion of trust that was imbued in the government's disposition towards its technology, and in the profound effects this had on the lives of those surrounding Chernobyl. The beliefs they held firmly in their hearts about safety and security were anchored by nationalistic pride, bolstering their confidence in a future that felt openly inviting. As the lush fields of the exclusion zone welcomed the warm embrace of a spring afternoon, the echoes of ambition lingered throughout the distant horizon. Life in Pripyat seemed almost idyllic, as though untouched by the uncertainties lurking at the edges of technological advancement, each peaceful moment encapsulated by the shadow of the power plant standing sentinel above the town. This narrative, steeped in the promise of human innovation and the quiet pulse of daily life, draws us closer to a precipice, a juncture at which the harmony of existence would face a cataclysmic challenge, forcing reflections upon the very nature of power and oversight, trust and faith. Chernobyl, in the idyllic embrace of its surrounding landscape, became a profound metaphor not solely for the tragedies born of industrial might, but also for the ethical dilemmas confronted by society, shedding light on the interrelationship between progress and peril. It compels us to pause, to breathe in the poetry of this landscape, and to allow ourselves to absorb the gentle whispers of past aspirations, as we are drawn into the intricate tapestry of history that threads us all together. As the narrative of Chernobyl weaves forward, it is bathed in a soft light. Before the shadows arise, before turmoil disrupts the tranquility and trust, it beckons us to tenderly reflect, to absorb the quiet beauty of its surroundings, and to acknowledge the deep complexities of the human experience within the brushstrokes of history, awaiting the poignant revelations yet to unfold. As the gentle flow of life continued within Pripyat, it is essential to understand the roots from which this community sprouted, woven into the tapestry of Soviet energy policies and the ambitions of a nation poised on the threshold of modernity. The story of Chernobyl unfolds against the backdrop of the 20th century, where the transmutation of energy sources signaled a graceful yet transitional chapter in human history. This was a time when the quest for progress challenged the natural world, and in the midst of this juxtaposition, Chernobyl was destined to take its place as both an innovation and an enigma. Emerging out of the scorched remnants of World War II, the Soviet Union found itself amidst a profound rebirth, striving to reclaim its place within the global order. The immediate post-war years marked a concerted effort to mobilize resources, build infrastructure, and galvanize a burgeoning workforce as the nation sought to advance technologically and economically. Agriculture, heavy industry, and nuclear power all competed for prominence, encapsulating the aspirations of the Soviet leadership to emerge as a superpower. As the decades rolled forward, the development of nuclear energy became emblematic of the era's technological ethos. By the 1960s, inspired partly by the Cold War dynamics, the Soviet government set its sights on harnessing atomic energy not solely for military applications, but with the intent of bolstering its civilian sectors. Nuclear power promised a sustainable source of energy to meet the growing demands of an ever-expanding population, feeding into the desires for industrial growth and the obligations of the state to provide for its citizenry. In consonance with this grand narrative, the decision to build the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the early 1970s came not merely as a prospect of local benefit, but as a pivotal component in the national agenda. The site was meticulously chosen for its proximity to transportation networks and the nearby Pripyat River, which would supply cooling water for the reactors, the essence of a well-planned industrial endeavor infused with the techno-optimism of the age. Here, under the shadow of large granite hills that cradled the land, construction began, infused with the hopes and dreams of future energy independence. As the plant neared completion in 1970, its operational launch marked a celebration, a symbol of Soviet ingenuity, bolstering the senses of national pride and communal achievement. The strategic importance of Chernobyl was not lost on the government. It served as a powerful reminder of the country's capabilities during an era where appearances held great weight. In many ways, the plant stood as a testament to the collective commitment of the Soviet people, embodying the labor and intent invested in a shared vision. Yet, beneath the surface of this industrious exterior lay subtleties that often eluded public scrutiny. The ambitious plans for nuclear energy growth were paired with an increasingly demanding complexity. The reactor design itself, the RBMK model, had unbeknownst shortcomings, presenting both challenges and opportunities intertwined within an intricate web of engineering decisions that echoed the Soviet ethos of achieving results at a rapid pace. The interplay of science and politics captured within those walls shaped the very fabric of life in the surrounding regions. As tranquil as the landscape may seem in this narrative, the socio-political structure governing everyday life in Chernobyl and Pripyat contributed layers of nuance that interacted with the aspirations of its populace. A community born from the promise of advancement, Pripyat resembled a living canvas where the collective dreams mingled with bureaucratic ambitions, where the lives of its inhabitants were directly tied to the fluctuating fortunes of the power plant. The welfare of the community was linked to the operational success of Chernobyl, thereby creating a unison, a dance of reliability and loyalty that both empowered and ensnared the people within a boundary drawn by the invisible but palpable forces of power and governance. As we meander through this historical landscape, we can appreciate the everyday life threading through the varied experiences in Pripyat. It was a town living in the pulse of optimism, a place where children would arise with the dawn, their giggles mingling harmoniously with the soft winds, rendering an environment that appeared almost idyllic against the backdrop of an unparalleled industrial monument. The markets pulsed with life, alive with the sounds of barter and banter, as locals congregated around stalls lined with freshly harvested produce, seamlessly woven into the fabric of daily life. The local traditions retained a distinct charm, influenced by the diverse ethnic composition of the region. There was a palpable kinship amongst the inhabitants stemming from shared history, cultural richness, and interlacing familial ties. In this community, engagement transcended the daily grind. Potlucks and communal festivals celebrated the bounty of the land, fostering a sense of belonging amid the ambitions enshrined in modernity. Whether sharing an evening meal under the gentle glow of lanterns or gathering round the radio to listen to the latest news from Moscow, the residents of Pripyat crafted an existence marked by resilience, unity, and hope. This portrait of life also intermingled with the fervent belief in technological progress, a conviction nurtured by age-old stories of transformations wrought from human ingenuity. The citizens of Pripyat, imbued with trust in the scientific pursuit, often perceived the nuclear plant as a step into the future, a thoughtful contribution to society that would amplify the promise of energy and abundance. Yet, as we unearth the layers of this conviction, it becomes an essential lens through which to investigate the complexities of human behavior and the inherent risks entwined within their choices. Still, amid the gentle hum of daily life flourished the shadows of caution nestled beneath the overwhelming optimism. The very structures supporting this belief system rested upon pillars that were nascent and potentially fragile. Those within the highest echelons of governance were acutely aware of the delicate balance between ambition and potentiality, recognizing that the ethos of unwavering faith could only sustain so much. Decisions played out not solely within the realm of technical specifications, but also through the lens of public perception, where influences of propaganda played upon the strings of trust that bonded society to its leaders. As the winds of change unfurled with the approach of the 1980s, the reverberations of the global climate grew palpable within this microcosm of Soviet life. The optimism embedded in the operations at Chernobyl, a representation of the Soviet Union's reach, reminded those within of the complexities of their condition. Layers of trust could not shield all vulnerabilities, nor could the bright ribbons of aspiration erase the nuances of human error or systemic inadequacies. Thus, within the verdant embrace of the Ukrainian landscape, the roots of Chernobyl cast long shadows, steeped in the paradox that surrounded human advancement. As we reflect upon this profound tapestry woven from ambitions and dreams, we find ourselves drawn towards the intricate connections that bind the people, their beliefs, and the mighty power of nature itself. Here lies the heartbeat of a community nestled in the expectations of political ideologies, technological advancements, and the intimate rhythms of daily existence, a delicate balance woven amongst the threads of power that both shaped and challenged the destinies of those who called Pripyat home. As this story unfolds, one recognizes that Chernobyl has arrived at a pivotal crossroads steeped in the paradoxical essence of humanity's journey, a story of perseverance intertwined with existential choices, held together by echoes of lasting hope. It is here that our exploration deepens as we venture beyond the light and shadows, poised to uncover the intricate tale of what lies ahead, where the most powerful lessons often arise amidst humility and reflection. In the heart of Pripyat, life unfolded with a rhythm all its own, carried along on the wings of everyday hopes and the gentle embrace of the landscape that enveloped it. The sun would rise, splashing hues of gold and orange across the horizon, melding seamlessly with the silhouettes of concrete buildings that stood as both home and testament to the town's aspirations. Each structure was alive with stories, whispers of laughter, and bustling routines going back decades, reminiscent of a place where dreams entwined with reality in a ballet of ordinary moments. Families began their day like so many others, with the comforting aromas of home-cooked meals wafting through the air, freshly baked bread, stews simmering on the stove, and the gentle hiss of tea being poured into delicate cups. These were the sounds and smells that meshed effortlessly into the daily life of the residents, anchoring them firmly in their shared existence. Children would rise, bustling around in morning excitement, eager to greet the day with boundless energy, their laughter echoing through the familiar corridors and interconnected playgrounds that peppered the town's landscape. In stark contrast to the serious challenges that lay ahead, the morning rituals of the townsfolk exuded a warmth that painted each day with layers of meaning. The community's daily life consisted of small yet meaningful routines, visits to the local market, where vendors would trade in vibrant fruits and vegetables, glistening under the sun's rays, or family gatherings during which tales of old held the community together. Here, people shared not just goods but lives, weaving intricate bonds that added richness to their experiences, each interaction reinforcing the social fabric that knit lives together. Pripyat served as a thriving microcosm of the broader Soviet society. The vibrant community life fostered a feeling of interconnectedness, where shared experiences amid a backdrop of ambition surged through the alleys and parks. The architecture of the town provided a glimpse into the prevailing design philosophy of the Soviet period, characterized by utilitarianism yet numerous stylistic touches. Apartment buildings adorned with balconies contoured to the shape of the land, creating a mosaic of spaces that invited both individual expression and communal pride. The culture of cooperation, whether shown in the smooth delivery of public transport or in the shared laughter of neighbors, echoed the essence of the Soviet ethos, encapsulating the enduring spirit of collectivism amid the rapid waves of modernization. The residents had embraced an unwavering belief in the promise of progress, seeing their community not just as a place to live, but as an integral part of a grand narrative that spoke of hope and innovation. This culture of aspiration intersected particularly strongly with the lives of the workers at the nuclear power plant. Many families had generations of labor in sectors tied closely to the ambitions of the state, illuminating an intricate tapestry stitched from labor relations, shared identity, and dedication to a common goal. The pride that employees felt while donning their uniforms for their shifts at Chernobyl radiated a sense of purpose. They envisioned themselves shaping the future, pouring every ounce of dedication and expertise into what they believed to be the economic lifeblood of not only their town but the entire nation. As the days melted into a pattern of seasons, the cultural calendar of Pripyat unfurled in joyous celebrations. Festivals marked the rhythm of life, rooted deeply in the traditions that enriched the community's identity. Specific days blossomed with jubilation, such as International Workers' Day, when entire families would adorn themselves in vibrant clothing, parading through streets decorated with flags that fluttered like dreams in the wind. Lively gatherings would fill the parks as neighbors came together to feast upon hearty dishes, exchanging stories while children danced and played, tiny feet tracing circles of joy upon the earth. The unity against a backdrop of shared history rendered these events not merely celebrations, but heartfelt affirmations of collective strength. Not only did the community engage in outward expressions of joy, but they also held an intrinsic bond to their spiritual beliefs, often woven into the fabric of their daily lives. The Orthodox Christian traditions remained strong, resonating through years of practice and reverence, serving as a quiet comfort against the tumult of existence. Some residents would walk the cobblestones toward the local church, its steeple reaching for the heavens, embodying both solace and a connection to something greater than themselves. In the warmth of candlelight, prayers offered sanctuary amid the uncertainties of life, a gentle reminder of their place within the universe. As each family shared meals rooted in local culinary practices, the food served as both nourishment and a shared experience. Plates would fill with traditional dishes made from locally sourced ingredients, the flavors of borscht painting conversation with crimson hues, while the scent of boiled potatoes or freshly caught fish lingered deliciously in the air. Recipes passed down through generations retained a sense of nostalgia, gathering stories amid the robust flavors that danced across taste buds, enveloping the family table in warmth. Sharing such meals became an act of both sustenance and communion, a means to reinforce their connections, nurturing not only the body but the spirit. Alongside these moments of joy, glimpses of the natural world invited gentle reflection into the daily interactions of the townsfolk. The environment cradling Pripyat flowed with undulating fields and the winding Pripyat River, nature's threads intricately woven alongside the constructed landscape. Here men and women would stroll past expansive meadows, where wildflowers peeked through the grass, enduring as a seasonal ballet in a cyclical dance of life. The trees, their branches reaching skyward, whispered in the winds, unfurling stories from the past unto passers-by, gently nudging them to find a larger significance amid their routines. As time unfurled its fabric, it became evident that life in Pripyat was painted with both light and shadow, capturing the complexities of human existence within a community marked by a mix of belonging and risk. As with any story of human endeavor, hope and optimism coexisted alongside a delicate vulnerability, an important acknowledgement woven into the very fabric of the people who called this place home. This duality lingered in the air, unobserved by many, yet poignant in its subtle reminders of the unpredictability of fate, an echo resounding through the hearts that beat amid the aspirations of the moment. Through these reflections, we come to understand the ever-present tension between ambition and the existential choices made within structured lives. The quiet yet profound understanding that humanity's path could not be simply forged by dreams alone, but destined to be tested by the complexities of reality. As the seasons turned, casting gentle shadows, the anticipation of what would come next clung to the conversations shared, a sense that an unseen force loomed on the horizon, waiting to unveil the truths hidden beneath layers of faith and determination. Pripyat stood as a testament to a culture that embraced the dualities of existence, each building echoing the joy and sorrow that intertwined within its people's lives, honoring both ancestry and dreams of the future. As time meandered forward in the undulating landscape of human experience, a rich tapestry woven with the threads of hope and vulnerability, propelling silently toward a beckoning future that would test the very foundations of their existence. As the vibrant tapestry of life within Pripyat continued to unfold, a subtle shift began to take shape within the powerful machinery of the Soviet Union, a narrative resonating with ambition and undercurrents of tension that demanded attention. Amid this carefully choreographed dance of daily existence, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant stood as both a beacon of hope and a potential crucible for calamity. Its principal reactors seemed to embody the very aspirations of industry and progress that the Soviet state held dear, an embodiment of its relentless pursuit of economic potential to match the ambitions posed by the broader geopolitical chessboard during the Cold War. This daring embrace of nuclear energy was not born out of whimsy. Rather, it was firmly anchored within the broader strokes of Soviet energy policy that sought to propel the nation into a posture of supremacy. As the world teetered on the brink of geopolitical tensions, especially with the United States, the Soviet Union invested substantial resources toward establishing a formidable infrastructure that would not only supply energy to its vast industries, but also signal its technological prowess on the global stage. The nuclear power movement symbolized a triumph of science over nature, encapsulating both the fervent nationalism and deeply rooted ideological convictions that coursed through Soviet society. In the context of this heady and intoxicating ambition arose a complex web of personalities that influenced the direction of the nuclear program. Many key figures believing wholeheartedly in nuclear energy's potential had emerged from numerous sectors: scientists with dreams of harnessing the atom's power, engineers imbued with the desire to construct monumental systems capable of redefining the natural order, and bureaucrats determined to expedite processes that would showcase their authority's accomplishments. Marginalized by time constraints and political pressures, safety measures often yielded to the ambitions of those who sought to amplify the narrative of progress. Hierarchical structures within Soviet governance often stifled critical voices, leading to a culture where dissent and concern were frequently silenced. This overarching backdrop shaped the operational practices at Chernobyl, which, although grounded in a promise of productivity, carried with them an undercurrent of tension, one that cut through the polished veneer of Soviet achievements. The reactor itself, RBMK-1000, became emblematic of both innovation and peril, as it was one of the shining technical achievements of Soviet engineering, marked by a design that illuminated the national focus on heavy industry and state power. Yet beneath its sophisticated facade, it housed some peculiarities that would later cast long shadows over its operational protocols. Characteristics intrinsic to the RBMK reactors, such as the use of graphite as a moderator and the inherent design flaws that rewarded risky behavior, inadvertently created a volatile environment in which human decisions, team dynamics, and institutional pressures intertwined. Technical overconfidence, rooted in the prevailing belief that the state and its innovations could push past the bounds of unpredictability, began to weave together with the fabric of reality in ways that would ultimately become perilous. As the calendar drew close to April 1986, the juxtaposition of the bright facade of progress and the underlying apprehensions coalesced with increasing pressure on personnel, who were tasked with the vigilance required to uphold both productivity and safety. Executives at the plant approached scheduled tests, each organized with specific objectives designed to optimize reactor performance for the benefit of the Soviet energy grid. Yet, driven by the urgency to adhere to deadlines and produce results, corners were cut and protocols were minimized. Individuals were caught in a delicate balancing act, torn between ambitious directives from the Soviet authorities pressuring them for performance and their own growing concerns about the safety of their operations. In such climates are born the pressures of loyalty, where reputations depend on adherence to the overriding goals set forth by the governing structures. The psychological weight carried by individuals who could feel the implicit threat of reproach hanging heavily in the air surged to the surface. The ambitions masked the quiet anxiety permeating the plant, echoing the broader currents of the Soviet construct, where transparency often submitted itself in favor of conformity to the state narrative. It was a delicate dance, where ambition called for pride, yet caution clamored for humility, creating a profound tension altogether conducive to inevitable tragedy. Discussions surrounding the efficacy of the reactor became increasingly cloaked in technical jargon, often neglecting the human dimension that served as the cornerstone of safe nuclear operations. Engineers, managers, operating staff, all were acutely aware of their roles within a complex web of responsibility, yet this interdependence occasionally bred complacency, whereby minor deviations from standard procedures were rationalized under the auspices of relentless productivity. In this high-stakes environment, the juxtaposition of pride, ambivalence, and tension simmered just below the surface until the early morning hours of April 26, when the clash of all these intricate elements came to a head with an explosive farewell to a fragile understanding between man and machine. A test intended to analyze the reactor's performance spiraled into unforeseen complexities, and a series of actions and reactions led to critical failures within the reactor core. The catastrophic release of energy illuminated an unfolding reality that had long been obscured by the assertions of technocratic certainty. It began as a tiny flicker of miscalculated judgment, a hesitation that cascaded into chaos reverberating throughout both the plant and the surrounding community. As memories of morning sunbeams danced through the windows of the town of Pripyat, the first hints of devastation began to disrupt the familiar rhythms of life that had defined the community. Amid the crackling sounds of alerts and the muffled communications from neighboring facilities, lives were irrevocably altered in an instant, thrust into a tempest fueled by both ambition and failure as the flow of power would turn ominous. The tensions collectively borne by engineers and political apparatus converged at a singular moment in time, revealing the fragility of the constructs that sought to contain the very power they had once touted heralded. The chaotic swirl of urgent responses, both on-site and from the higher echelons of Soviet governance, ensued, revealing the fissures in the fabric of the supposed invulnerability of the state structures. As the initial alarm sounded, the absence of clear communication among officials in high command and the plant operators would soon expose a gap created by years of entrenched silos, where protocols met barriers of mistrust, and the urgency ushered forth began to betray the collective hopes that had once characterized the plant. Eventually, through echoes of sirens and muted cries for assistance, the dichotomy of affluence and disaster unraveled in front of a stunned global audience. The cascading consequences of that fateful night revealed fractures not only in material infrastructure, but also in the very essence of the narrative of Soviet strength, as shadows of denial, fear, and vulnerability comorbidly shaped international discourse. Questions permeated the atmosphere, questions that intended to probe the boundaries of choice, safety, and accountability echoed long after the flurry of immediate reactions subsided. The fallout of April 26, 1986, unfurled a series of ramifications that would ripple through local and global contexts, sparking an examination of the intersection between ambition and responsibility, between state power and individual lives. With the fires extinguished and the waves of panic subsiding, a legacy began to unfurl, rendering visible the lesser-seen complexities of governance, where technology, human judgment, and socio-political frameworks intertwined in ways far beyond the narratives of triumph once proclaimed from the rooftops of Pripyat. Like leaves swirling in the wake of an oncoming storm, the lessons lost amid the quest for dominance would beckon the world to reconsider the very foundation upon which power had been built. It was then that Chernobyl stood as a monument, not simply to the tragedies of its moment, but as a testament to the fragile entanglements within society itself, fragments of ambition intertwined with the imperatives of caution amid the daunting reality of humankind's efforts to harness nature's might within the frameworks of governance. Through these revelations, a profound recognition lingered, a call for reflection that would echo through the decades to come, urging those who dwell in the shadow of towering ambition to acknowledge the delicate balance between progress and responsibility that defines the human experience. As dawn broke on April 26, 1986, at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, an ordinary day rapidly devolved into an unprecedented calamity. The reactor had been set off, its internal mechanisms, loaded with spent time and human error, spiraling out of control near the brink of catastrophic failure. The explosion that rocked the facility at approximately 1:23 a.m. shattered the illusion of invincibility harbored not only by those who operated the reactor, but also by the very fabric of the Soviet system that had nurtured their confidence. As smoke began to billow into the starry night, panic ensued within the control room, tinted by the deepening realities of the moment, a moment that would resonate far beyond the borders of Ukraine and rattle the notions of nuclear energy worldwide. In the hours following the explosion, a cacophony of response echoed through the desolate corridors of the power plant and the nearby town of Pripyat. Firefighters and emergency crews, some unaware of the true nature of the danger they were confronting, rushed towards the plant in acts of bravery born from an instinct to safeguard their community. They worked tirelessly to douse the flames, while the same ignorance of the invisible radiation that surged like a ghostly tide around them began to seal their fates. The urgent scramble to contain a disaster that began with an experiment gone wrong unfolded like a tragic theater that marked the lives of myriad individuals in uneven strokes of fate. Back in the town of Pripyat, life had abruptly shifted from a serene rhythm to a state of chaos, wherein the close-knit community grappled with the uncertainty that flooded into their lives. Each family's narrative began weaving into a bleak and shared tapestry marked by confusion and desperation. Authorities, initially reluctant to divulge the extent of the catastrophe, hesitated and faltered in their communication, calling into question the trust that had been cultivated over decades by a government long held dear, yet perceived as infallible and ultimately paternalistic. Rumors crystallized in the absence of clarity, veiled whispers circulating amongst friends and neighbors, exacerbating an already unsettling scenario. Days turned into a tragic passage as more unsettling news filtered through. Evacuations were ordered, but amid the urgency lay the complexities of human existence. Life cannot be disentangled from home with ease. The delicate ties that bind family and community became intertwined with the impulse to cling to familiarity, all of which further complicated the response to a burgeoning crisis. The initial hours of alarm transformed into an exercise requiring the evacuation of nearly 50,000 residents, each bound to their homes by memories and the haunting whispers of foreboding. Children would soon need to leave behind their toys, adults the comforts of daily life, and dreams would be traded for a perplexing unknown, asserting a painful narrative that would last far beyond their immediate exit. Chernobyl would subsequently become a landscape hollowed out by tragedy, with the exclusion zone drawn and defined around it, a surreal ghost town where echoes of laughter had been replaced by silence. Yet the unfolding tragedy would not merely fade into oblivion, it carried with it repercussions that breached borders and illuminated vast global narratives. Chernobyl opened a Pandora's box of complex dilemmas surrounding international nuclear policy, often met with skepticism and fear. What was once heralded as a hallmark of human ingenuity became equated with horror, shifting sentiment and prompting nations to reevaluate the balance between energy independence and safety. As the weeks turned to months following the disaster, the stark reality of life in the aftermath revealed itself. Scientific teams, politicians, and stakeholders from across the globe began to grapple with environmental assessments that probed the long-term impact of radiation exposure on human bodies and local ecosystems. Each day passed under a prevailing cloud of uncertainty. Questions supplanted the ease once afforded by technology, generating debates that explored ethical dimensions surrounding accountability, transparency, and responsibility, all symptomatic of the broader tensions within Soviet governance. Footage of the efforts to contain the fallout, including the construction of the sarcophagus, the concrete structure hastily erected over the remains of reactor number 4, revealed layers of response met with apprehension. Ongoing studies into the effects of radiation on health illuminated patterns of disease and despair, as people who had once thrived in the shadow of power became synonymous with the fragility of existence. Families fractured under the stress of trauma, and those who ventured back into the afflicted territories often bore witness to ghostly landscapes that embodied the intersection of humanity and nature, a haunting reminder of life interrupted. With time, Chernobyl transformed into a somber symbol echoing through academic halls, where researchers sought to glean lessons from the aftermath. It shifted the discourse around nuclear energy, forming an indelible mark on studies dedicated to environmentalism, human psychology in crisis, and the complex relationship that humanity maintained with technological advancement. The incident birthed a renewed focus on nuclear regulations worldwide, prompting foreign ministers, scientists, and engineers alike to evaluate safety measures in facilities once deemed secure. As voices articulated a fervent call for transparency in energy practices, the nuances of power dynamics were thrust into the spotlight. For the local populace who remained, whispered stories of resilience intertwined with grievances. They became stewards of memory, fostering a legacy wrapped in pride but tinged with pain. Over the years, surviving residents bore witness to small acts of defiance, a deliberate choice to return to the roots of their community, farming the fertile soil and nurturing wildlife, which in a sense began to reclaim the land from the grasp of desolation. They crafted bonds amid adversity, harvesting resilience in silence against a backdrop painted by the whispers of the past. Internationally, shadowy discussions unfolded within governmental circles as the assessment of nuclear policies began to attune to the lessons learned from Chernobyl. People became more aware of the necessity for vigilance and accountability, recognizing the profound implications of unchecked ambition. Chernobyl beckoned conversations about ethics in the realms of science and governance, imposing upon nations an urgent reflection on the intertwining threads of safety, growth, and humanity's expanded influence over the natural world. As the decades wore on, the events of April 1986 remained etched into the frameworks of memory, as the story of Chernobyl persisted, much like the fallen leaves in autumn, laden with significance yet signaling the arrival of change. It became the specter that loomed large over discussions of energy policy well into the new millennium. Debates surrounding nuclear power were colored by the duality of possibility and peril, elegance and existential uncertainty. Global dialogues expanding into new arenas called for community advocacy, informing robust critiques of policies oftentimes governed by the opaque operations and desires of the mighty. Within the neighboring legacies of Ukraine and the metropolitan reaches of the former Soviet Union, Chernobyl became a haunting yet vital lesson in the complex navigation of truth amid ideology. It carved pathways for renewed conversations about oversight, precaution, and the invaluable essence of human life amid grand ambitions, a clarion call to recognize that the dance with nature could not be choreographed under the umbrella of arrogance. As time continued to untangle the threads of this history, the implications of Chernobyl emerged as a profound testament to the delicate balance of our desires, a reminder that ambition must always embrace the spirit of caution, for it lays the foundation of neither power nor progress, but the harmonious existence of humanity alongside the natural world. In the shadow of Chernobyl's stark husks and untamed landscapes, a collective pulse of reflection reverberated, echoing the timeless call for humility, caution, and integrity in the dance of civilization and technological aspiration, a legacy that demands recognition, a narrative hungering for understanding, and an inescapable thread woven deeply into the broader tapestry of our existence. As the seasons gracefully shift across the desolate landscape surrounding Chernobyl, it is important to pause and reflect on the deep layers of memory and meaning that have settled like dust upon this once vibrant tableau of life. Trees that now grow unencumbered within the winding paths of absence whisper of the resilience that thrives within nature, persistently reclaiming spaces that were forsaken in the wake of catastrophe. The silence that envelops the abandoned structures of Pripyat, a town that once pulsed with laughter, toil, and the simple joys of daily existence, is unlike any other. It feels almost sacred, imbued with the weight of human stories laden with both hope and grief. Memory, in its intricate dance with time, transforms the tragedies of the past into enduring legacies that resonate through generations. Chernobyl's story, now more profoundly understood, serves as a fitting reminder that conversations surrounding power are not merely confined to the political arena. They encompass the delicate dimensions of the human experience, our triumphs, our failings, and our yearning for a world where human ingenuity aligns harmoniously with the natural rhythms of life. Indeed, the energy policies that define nations are often blanket statements, but they carry implications that touch the deepest corners of existence itself. The exclusion zone marks a transition, a poignant reminder of what was lost and what continues to linger in the echoes of time. It is a testament to the indelible scars left not just on the land, but on the very psyche of humanity. A diverse array of wildlife now inhabits this territory, soaring on wings unhampered by human interference, reclaiming whatever remains of the land that bore so many dreams. Deer and wolves glide silently through the creeping grasses and wildflowers, reminding us that life possesses an innate ability to endure, to flourish beyond the tragedies that can seem immutable and overwhelming. In their existence, they bring forth a gentle hope, serving as an unspoken allegory for survival and rebirth amidst adversity. Amidst nature's revitalization stands a quiet monument to the past, a reminder of the tension that existed not only between human ambition and the forces of nature, but also woven into the very fabric of power dynamics within a society draped in secrecy. The aftermath of Chernobyl did not solely unravel the narrative of nuclear energy, but cracked open a broader discourse about accountability and governance, threading through the layers of political and environmental discourse in the decades that followed. Issues surrounding nuclear safety now align with a growing call for transparency and democratic oversight, tempering ambition with the realization that every act of progress must wear the cloak of responsibility. As new generations emerge, eager to learn from the mistakes of the past, The lessons of Chernobyl serve as pivotal chapters in the lexicon of environmental studies, human rights, and international relations. It invites us to query not just how the powerful wield their influence, but significantly how those influences resonate within the collective consciousness. The legacy of Chernobyl becomes a beacon, illuminating the intricacy of how power is perceived, enacted, and often mismanaged. A cautionary tale that reverberates across borders, reminding leaders and citizens alike that the role of humanity in safeguarding the natural world extends far beyond mere oversight. In the years that have followed, as more dialogues have emerged acknowledging the intertwining pathways of energy policy and ecological harmony, Chernobyl has found itself at the forefront of academic inquiry and public discourse. The reflections sprouting from this historical scar have not only shaped regulations, but have seeded a rekindled environmental awareness that resonates today. Human beings increasingly gravitate towards narratives that encompass a holistic understanding of energy, the realization that true progress is not merely the refrain of technological advance, but must include the protection of the earth and the sanctity of life that flourishes upon her. Echoes of the past fuel today's energy debates, as the conversations surrounding nuclear power pragmatically merge with discussions about sustainability. Societies grapple with the pressing need for clean energy alternatives, while not forgetting the haunting reminders of Chernobyl. It is this duality that fosters a deeper recognition of our interdependency with nature, urging governments, institutions, and individuals alike to navigate the arduous path towards coexistence with courage and foresight. The specter of Chernobyl serves then as both a caution and a call to arms, urging humanity to remain vigilant, to question the status quo, and to advocate for the intertwining of technological innovation with a respect for our environment. In the deep green of the exclusion zone, where wildflowers flourish amongst crumbling remnants, resides an unyielding resolve to chart a future that honors the past while nurturing a new narrative, one wherein human aspirations blend with the ecological tapestry that sustains all life. Life continues to unfold within and around Chernobyl, with remnants of the past offering glimpses into how humanity can rise anew from the ashes of its former negligence and oversight. The emotional landscape speaks to a collective remembrance, a space where loss intertwines with survival, fear with hope, and where the essence of community erupts into a chorus of renewed life. Even as we step back and gaze across the sprawling remnants of human endeavor now rendered silent by time, we can hear the whispers of promises once made, bolstered by a fierce desire to learn and to adapt. And as we reflect on this tapestry woven through despair and survival, we understand that Chernobyl's enduring significance is not just in the lessons it imparts. It is about the memories that linger, the lives touched, and the narrative of power that demands continuous examination. Chernobyl crystallizes the boundaries of ambition, urging each generation to heed its message, considering both the potential for advancement and the responsibility that must accompany it. Ultimately, the evolving memory of Chernobyl carries with it a luminous possibility, an invitation to pause, to breathe, and to engage in the pursuit of meaning within the quiet eddies of existence. As dusk stretches its gentle fingers across the landscapes of Chernobyl, the vast silence wraps around the ruins, allowing a calm, reflective space for contemplating the intricate dance of humanity and nature. In this stillness, the legacy endures, a soft reminder that in each breath of the wilderness, in every whisper of the wind through the trees, lies an enduring call for harmony, a gentle reminder of the reverberating echoes of the broader story we have all crafted together.